Hey everybody, welcome to Sorvin's non-meta tournament. I guess this is the overview with all of the deck profiles. So this is the first place deck profile that I played myself. And yeah, it's ABC if you couldn't tell. And I'm going to be, giving a little bit more insight on this deck list than I will the other ones, which I guess is like kind of convenient since this is the first place deck list. But yeah, obviously 3/8 B and C with 2 copies of Galaxy Soldier. I probably could have played 3, got away with it. I also opted to play Gizmek Yada, but yeah, I definitely think that playing 3 Galaxy Soldier should have been a better option. I just didn't, I guess. I just really wanted to try out the Gizmek Yada. Gizmek Yada was honestly decent. It was okay. I probably would take it out in the future versions. I genuinely just wanted to like try this card and see if it was really cool. It just gives you an extra normal summon, but then it locks you into machines for the rest of the turn. So yeah, 1 copy of Heavy Mech Support Armor. I actually ended up not using this card, but I still think that it is a fantastic card, being able to summon any unit monster back from the graveyard. Pretty cool. Parallax Seed. I could also probably play 3 copies of this, but I mean, you're only ever going to use 2, so I guess playing 2 copies is pretty, it's okay. It doesn't make sense for me to not play 2, I guess. 3 copies of Gamma, as well as the 1 copy of Driver. This is just a hand trap that I didn't want to get called by the grave. I just wanted to play around it, so that's what I did. I played 1 copy of Silver Gadget. I meant to play 1 copy of Silver and 1 copy of Gold, but I forgot to put Gold in my list, so I ended up having to play this list how it was. If I obviously would change this list, I would definitely take out these Gizmek Yadas, 1 for a copy of Galaxy Soldier and the other one for a Gold Gadget. And yeah, that's probably going to be the change to my list. The reason that I played the gadgets in the first place is basically Platinum Gadget has the effect to summon a level 4 gadget monster from your deck when it dies. And so if you're not playing a gadget, you're not really punishing your opponent by, like, if your opponent kills your gadget, then you're not gaining anything. And I think the gadgets by themselves are pretty cool as an extra extender. Guitar. I played the Symphonic Engine, so guitar, 3 guitar, 1 mics. I think that this was honestly a terrible choice. I think that Galaxy Soldier does what this does, but better. Essentially, this gives you an extra normal summon, similarly to Gizmek Yada, but it also gives you a level 5, which is really cool. Same thing with Gizmek Yada. But I think that what these do, that the Galaxy Soldier just, like, does better. I don't know how to explain. I guess like Galaxy Soldier just does it by itself. Like, you don't need anything else. I guess you have to get your discard, but I don't know. I just don't like it that much. I don't know why. I don't really like it that much. It just seems a little off. I think mostly because I think Galaxy Soldier by itself is a 1 card infinity. I guess technically not 1 card because you need 2 light discards out of your hand, but I mean, that's still pretty easy to do in this deck, which I think is why I personally prefer it over the Yadas as well as the mics. So I think in the future I'm going to be dropping this from my list altogether as well, and maybe opting to play more hand traps or like Upstart Goblin maybe. Oh wait, I am playing Upstart. I don't know, maybe like hand traps or like regular trap cards, I guess. I don't know. Union Driver. This is really, really good. Just busted. Being able to equip this from your deck off of Union Hanger or unauthorized reactivation is like broken, since you could just banish it and equip a piece and then summon that piece anyways. So you're just playing around Union Hanger's restriction, you're playing around unauthorized reactivations restriction. It's just such a broken card, and on top of all of that, it's a level 5 machine, which is broken because if you happen to draw this card with like a Galaxy Soldier or anything like that, you can actually use this card to make Cyber Dragon Infinity, which is really, really good. I think there is a combo. Maybe I'll have to do like a combo video later on, which I have not recorded yet. But if you guys are interested in seeing a combo video for this deck, especially for non-meta, then let me know and I will post a combo video for sure. But you can summon this off of C since it's a Union monster, and you can use it with Galaxy Soldier or Yada or Mics, and you can make Infinity. really broken. You can also summon this back off of ABC Dragon Buster's effect, since it just has to target 3 Light Machine Union monsters with different names. It doesn't specify which ones, and this is definitely a Light Machine Union. You can just bring it back off of Union Hanger, which it's already banished off of its own effect, so really cool. You can make Infinity late game with that pretty easily. 1 copy of Instant Fusion, 1 copy of Monster Reborn, 1 copy of Terraforming, 1 copy of Upstart Goblin. Obviously, if I am cutting the mics and the Yadas, I'm probably going to also be cutting the Instant Fusion. Since, you know, I won't have a need for another level 5 light, being the Panzer Dragon. I just don't really see a point in having an extender that is just going to die in the end phase. Reborn's so broken, and Terraforming being able to get you into Hanger is so broken too. Reactivation, insane. Like, this is a better Union Hanger. Honestly, I think that this is a 100% better card than Union Hanger. Like, because you're most likely, like, more than not going to be drawing one of these pieces in your opening hand, and if you draw reactivation with it, it's just broken. This is a starter, an extender, and a protection. Like, this card does everything you want it to do. It's a starter in the form that you can start your combos by just going into the Union Driver. You can extend by getting a search or getting a special summon, or, you know, getting an add back at pretty much any point when you're linking off your cards. Or you can protect it. If you draw Union Hanger plus reactivation, it's broken, because then you're going to have a ABC Dragon Buster, and you're going to set this reactivation on your opponent's turn. And if they try to, do anything with your Dragon Buster, you can just use reactivation to make it unaffected. You probably don't want to do that, since you can just tag out Buster anyways, but you can make any machine monster you control unaffected by card effects. You can just save your Infinity Negate. Like, if they mind control you, you chain reactivation, equip B to your Infinity, and it's unaffected by spells. It's just broken. It's just such a good card. I think that it's really good. Just being able, basically 3 more copies of Hanger, but it's also a quick play. 3 copies of Impermanence in the remaining, hand trap for the deck. And then in the side deck, I play 1 copy of Pinkertops, 2 Gamma Seals. Basically, I'm afraid of unaffected cards, so Gamma Seals are in there for that. Ghost Ogre, because Ash is banned, and I think that this or Valor is probably the next best card, but I'm already playing Impermanence, so I figured I'd go for Ogre, because I assumed people would play Zodiac, so that's why I played Ogre in the first place, but nobody played Zodiac, and I didn't want to, change my list because I saw all the deck lists. But yeah, Nibiru, because I think this card's fantastic. 1 copy of Lightning Storm, since the card's at 1 for the format. 1 copy of Mind Control, 3 copies of Twin Twisters, and 1 copy of Evenly, since it's also at 1 for the format. For the extra deck, Buster, Panzer Dragon, Omega for the Gamma, Dweller, Infinity, Nova, Emerald, and Tornado Dragon. So the 4 rank 4s are Tornado, Emerald, and Dweller. Makes sense. It's pretty much standard. 1 Borreload, because this is the big link for Borrelsword's banned, Appaloosa's banned, Avery Max is banned. Then this is probably the next best one. IP Masquerena. Oh, also XX Kotarga's banned. Nightmare Cerberus, Nightmare Phoenix, Nightmare Unicorn, Platinum Gadget, and Cypher Lord Lambda. All of these Nightmare monsters are fantastic, because you have tons of pieces in your hand that you honestly don't know what to do with a lot of times. And this Lambda is really cool, because if you draw the right hand, you can actually end with like IP Lambda and Buster. IP Lambda, Buster, Infinity, I think, is like the big end board, and it does everything you want it to do. But yeah, that's probably the longest portion of this video. The rest of this, I'm just going to be pretty much going over the deck list and telling you, yeah, just like minor details, I guess. This is Goofy Ghost's list of a Crusadia deck. I guess it's Crusadia Kaiju, if you want to call it that. Obviously, opting to play the Parallax Seed, I think, is a really, really smart idea, as well as the Gravedigger's Trap Hole. I don't think that this is, like, super great. He said it was just, like, decent when, like, we were talking on Discord. He said it was just, like, an okay package, but I think that it's well worth playing, just because of the fact that Nibiru is still in the game. I didn't ban this card because I felt like it was a balance card more than anything else, but I'm maybe second guessing that. Unfortunately, it didn't really pull through much on the feature matches, so I think that for the next ban list, this is going to stay until I'm convinced otherwise, essentially. But yeah, I think that the Parallel Exceed is very worth playing, just be able to play through hand traps, especially the Nibiru. And the Gravedigger's Trap Hole did quite a bit in one of the games, especially just, it cleared one of the Magician's souls out of the hand, and I think that was pretty much enough to win that game. But yeah, I think he had the game in the bag anyways, but yeah. 2 copies of Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. So this is at 3 in the format, and I'm actually really curious if people are going to play this at 3, especially in like multiple lists, because all the board wipes, there's 3 Dark Hole, 3 Kaiju Slumber, so 3, 6, and then there's a Raigeki, and there's Lightning Storm. So that's 8 forms of like destruction, just like mass board wipes. So I feel like Dark Hole and maybe Kaiju Slumber might need to get limited in this format, but I think they're fine for now. But Kaiju Slumber is definitely fantastic, being able to just clear the board, put a Kaiju on your field, put a Kaiju on your opponent's field, and just say, let's fight. And I think it's great. Also, being able to search late game is really solid too. I think this is genuinely just like a pretty solid deck. He's opting to play Baguska, and I think this was a card I missed on the ban list, so I think this is gonna get hit. It's just a floodgate, and yeah, no thanks. But yeah, I think other than that, I think this is a pretty standard list. Topologic Zeraboros is actually a really strong card as well, but it didn't get to see any sort of play in the feature matches as well. But yeah, I don't think there's really much else to say about this. I think this is a pretty standard Crusadia list. There's not really much spice. I guess I could maybe the Cowboy. I think that's kind of interesting as well. All right, moving into our 3rd place list. This is the list that Hao played. He's dueling book username was Toshiro69, and this is the list that he played, and it was a Yangzing Metalfoes list. Opting to play one of each Metalfoes card is I guess very interesting. A lot of people don't opt to play Counter. I think personally Counter is one of the better ones. I think a lot of people opt to play more of a combination, more like combination and like fusion, but I think Counter is a fantastic card as well. So he's actually opting to play all 3. And yeah, I think this is also a pretty standard list. 1 copy of Yangzing Path, which is interesting. I guess it makes sense because, I mean, obviously you probably only want to resolve this one time, and then after that you're pretty much done. He's also playing what I think are like really odd choices. Paolo, I don't see this card played. Really interesting. It makes the synchro that you synchro with it unaffected by spells, which I think is cool. Zephyraxi makes any one of your dudes a tuner, which I guess it makes sense since you can send this off of, Zephyrath, so it makes sense why you would play 1 copy of this. And then Tatoi, I have not seen this card. I didn't know this card even existed prior to seeing this in one of his feature matches. So I thought that was really interesting. Yeah, really interesting. But I mean, other than that, I don't think there was anything too crazy about this list. I think like pretty much all of the Metalfoes cards are worth playing. It's really interesting that he opted not to play the level 2 one, but I mean, I can see why. It's pretty weak, and it's a kind of an odd scale, or not an odd scale. It's obviously an even scale, but it's definitely a weird one, I think. But I guess that makes sense because, I mean, Zephyr knew he's a high scale, so I guess that's your replacement high scale. But yeah, and Zephyrath makes sense. This is just the searcher. Oracle Zephyra searches for this. Zephyr Providence searches for this, You know, this does everything. All of these cards make complete sense. I think it's just the Metalfoes engine's a little bit odd. Maybe he could opt to play like the Klee engine. I don't know. Like summoners are into Kleefort Scout, into Monolith, make Infinity. I don't know. I think that would be a really cool thing, but obviously he opted not to choose to play that as well. He also opted not to play any of the searcher cards like Summoner's Art or Painful, not Painful Decision, Painful Choice? No, is it? It's one of those. The one that searches for the lower level normal monsters. The other one's a band card. I don't remember which one's which though. And then the side deck, obviously the trio, Storm, Reboot, Evenly, just back row deck hate pretty much. Dark Ruler. I think that a lot of people opt to play this, and I think it's okay. I don't know. I don't think it's that great of a card, honestly, in this format at least. I think obviously it works really good against my deck, just being able to negate Infinity as well as Buster, but we unfortunately didn't see it at all, and I don't think it's honestly that great of a card, but you know, whatever. 3 copies of Twin Twisters makes sense. It's back row hate. Nibiru makes sense. And Lancia, this is a really interesting choice. I wonder why he chose to play this instead of anything else. I'm trying to think off the top of my head what maybe he could have played this for, but nothing's coming to mind actually. And then 1 Ignister in the extra, or the side deck, to switch into the extra. And then I think that one of the more interesting things that he's doing here is he's playing Draglubion to get into either Hope Harbinger, Numeron Dragon, Neo Galaxy Eyes Tachyon, or Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon. So he's playing 4 different targets, and I think that this is actually really, really cool. Just like summoning 2 Baxias and then overlaying into this, and then just like killing your opponent, or basically like making Hope Harbinger to like attack for game and stuff like that. Also, this one can attack for game because you can detach material, negate everything on the field, and then your opponent can't activate cards or effects for the rest of the turn. And then if it has a Galaxy Eyes as a material, you can attack 3 times on monsters. Pretty broken. So yeah, I think this is a really interesting choice here. And then 2 copies of Mithrilium for the rest of the extra deck. I think that this is fairly standard. I don't know. Chaofeng playing 2 copies is also very interesting. But yeah. So that's your 3rd place deck profile. Moving on into the 4th place, this is Conman's Dark Magician list. And I think the weirdest choice, I was talking to him, and there was something that I was curious as to why he didn't play it. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's really interesting that he is playing Polymerization. I think that is a really interesting choice. I guess maybe it makes sense. I don't know. It just seems really odd that he's playing like the actual Polymerization. Oh, the card that I was thinking that he could play is Fusion Deployment. So it's a very interesting card. It summons, you reveal a monster in your extra deck, and then you get to summon one of the materials from that that's listed on the monster from your deck, and you can only fusion summon for the rest of the turn. So this deck doesn't really perform many like link summons or Xyz summons. You don't really go into your extra deck super often. So I thought it would be a very interesting choice to essentially just summon Dark Magician from deck. You could activate Circle, and then you could use Fusion Deployment to summon Dark Magician from deck and then banish a card on the field. I think that would be a really interesting choice. I'm not sure if you can attack with the monster during the same turn that you summon it. Looks like you just can't Fusion Summon with it. I guess you definitely can. Yeah, you can attack with it. There's no other restrictions on the card that I am aware of, so you just can't Fusion Summon for the rest of the turn. Or you can only Fusion Summon for the rest of the turn, so yeah, I think Circle and Fusion Deployment would be really cool. Just banish a card, and then you have a Dark Magician that can attack directly. I think that would be really cool. And I actually haven't seen this. Dark Magic Inheritance. Banish 2 spells from your grave, add a spell or trap from your deck that lists Dark Magician. I guess that makes sense. I don't know why this isn't played at multiples, because I think this would be really cool. Plus, the majority of the deck is spell cards. I don't know. It's really interesting. So this does pretty much search for like your whole entire archetype. So I think that is a very interesting choice. And yeah, I don't think there's pretty much other than that, like other than like the Polymerization as well as like the Dark Magic Inheritance, I don't think there's really too much else in this deck that's really like catches my eye, I guess. Super Probably's at 1, by the way, so that's why he's not playing multiples of that. And then obviously the side deck is pretty standard: Kaiju's, Nibiru, Cosmic Cyclone, Dark Ruler No More, and Twin Twisters. So he's actually opting to play both Cosmic and Twin Twisters, which is really interesting. And also not playing 1 copy of the Lightning Storm the Evenly and like Pankratops or something, which is also an interesting choice as well. No Lightning Storm, no Evenly. Really interesting. And then Dark Cavalry, I guess, in the extra deck is really interesting because it needs a warrior, and I'm not really certain what warriors are in this deck that he can use to summon it. So I don't know. I don't know how exactly he gets into that one. Maybe it's this one. Target one Dark Magician monster you control fusion summon a fusion monster from your... Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense why he can summon that. But I think majority of the time you're just going to be going for Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight. So yeah. El Shaddoll Winda is also a really interesting choice. I guess he expected to see Shaddolls more often. Actually, Winda is banned. Oh, I just realized that. Technically, this list was invalid, but he didn't summon Winda, so it doesn't matter. Drigus Tapelia, Violet Chimera, Starving Venom, Fusion Dragon. I don't know. I think the rest is pretty straightforward. I guess Lucky Straight and Diabolosis are very, very interesting cards, but yeah. That's going to do it for the 4th place. I'm going to be running through really quick for the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th place because obviously they didn't top, quote unquote. So this is Quaid's Yang Zing Tenyi Metal Foes deck. He said he made this in literally like 10 minutes. So take it how it is. He just literally threw it together and submitted it. So yeah, this is the list. He said it was honestly just like whatever. I think the Yang Zing creation was probably one of the biggest like mistakes I think for this deck, because of this clause right here, you can only summon synchros. But I mean, this is majority of synchro deck, but still I think that it was a pretty interesting choice. I think it could have been built better for sure, but I think that he just built it wrong the way that he did. Then this is Dave's 6th place ABC list. If you do notice, this is identical to the one that I played. They're literally the same, except like literally the Monster Reborn art has changed, but they're identical lists. They're exactly the same. Yeah, there's really nothing else to say about this. He just had a little unfortunate. One of his games he just drew completely unplayable. And then the other game, I think you saw the feature match. I think he just made some very, very crucial misplays. So, yeah, one of them he couldn't have done anything about. He just drew terrible hands. And then the other one, I think he definitely could have played a little bit better. And then the 7th place list is Hero Sam 123. Technically, this is the last place because the 8th place person ended up dropping in round number 1. So we never really got to see what the deck could do. But this is the, a frog list. I'm a pretty big frog expert here. And I think that this list is pretty standard outside of 2 cards in the main deck, which is Torrential Tribute and Reckless Greed. I think that these cards are weird, odd choices, because Torrential Tribute destroys your own Paleos, and I don't think it's a very good card. Reckless Greed is kind of okay, and I am noticing that he actually opted not to play Trap Trick, which I think could definitely have been one of the big mistakes. And playing the 3 copies of Desires is also really interesting, because, I mean, obviously you don't want to banish your frogs, but, I mean, passing up on the draw too, you kind of have to play it. He is opting to play the Leancolia, which I think is smart. Being able to, bring back one of your frogs at the very least, I think is pretty smart. But yeah, I think that, like, other than the Torrential Tribute and the Reckless Greed, I think this list is pretty standard. I think that the Crackdown should be at 3 as well, but, I mean, it's a pretty standard Paleo Frog list. And then in the the side deck, it's pretty standard stuff as well, like the Pankratops, Lightning Storm, Evenly, 3 Nibiru, 3 Judgment, 3 Storm Duster, 3 D-Barrier. Makes sense. Also, by the way, D-Barrier is going to be hit on the next one because I think that it is a pretty broken card. It's not going to be banned or anything, but I think that it needs a little smack on the wrist because it's not a floodgate, but it's close. Anamalakaris in the extra deck, Opabina, Toad, Link Spider, Mistar Boy, Unicorn. I think another thing that's really interesting is he opted to play Mistar Boy. I think the overall better choice is to play the Water Charmer from now on. I think Mistar Boy is essentially power crept by the Water Charmer. So yeah. In my Paleo Frogs list, I just opt to not play this card at all. But that's just me personally. Borreload, Linkuriboh, Cat Shark. He's actually opting not to play like a second copy of Link Spider, which I guess makes sense. He's opting not to play Nightmare Cerberus, which is really possibly a big mistake as well, because it's kind of hard for him to get out the Nibiru token outside of, stealing with Crackdown, banishing with Dynamiscus, stuff like that. So yeah, and he's also opting to play a lot of the rank 2 engines, stuff like Crumble Logos, Sky Cavalry, Dead Ghost of Phoenix, and Cat Shark, which I think is kind of like fallen off the radar. But yeah, that's going to do it for the 7th place deck profile. And then in the 8th place, this is a Hot Red Dragon Archfiend, or just Red Dragon Archfiend Resonator deck. And yeah, it's just Resonator cards, and unfortunately we weren't really able to see this deck in action, and I think he's actually opting not to play the new Resonator card, which is really interesting. He pretty much copied this deck from one of the ones on the weird, like, there's like a weird like YGO Pro list that you can like grab all these from. But yeah, it's just like a really interesting deck list. I mean, he didn't top or anything like that, so yeah, there's not really much else to say about this, since this is literally the deck list he sent for me card for card, and we never got to see it, so I don't really know exactly what to say on it. But that's going to do it for today's video, and all the deck profiles are there. And with all of that said, I hope you guys join the tournament, and I will see you guys later. Bye.